back today with another fun tutorial, and right off the bat you might recognize these colors from that viral Taylor Swift dress, but today we're not making a dress, we're going to make a bag, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Now for today's bag you can really pick any yarn you want. You can make it in a solid, you can make it in lots of different colors. The yarn I'm using for this is the Sugar and Cream yarn. This is a cotton weight, it's a bit stiffer. I got this from the Mary Maxim website, and I have links for that in the pattern as well as in the ad-free PDF that is on Etsy or Ravelry. I have color inspiration. Some other yarns I like to use would be like Dishy from We Crochet or this Comfy Cotton from We Crochet, all in a cotton weight, because when you're not using a cotton yarn, your other types of yarns can tend to stretch. And when you're doing a bag, we don't want a lot of stretch. So cotton yarns stretch less, and that's why I recommend them. Now this is in a worsted weight, but you can technically make this with any weight that you want. The thing that you would need to be conscious of is your gauge, which is why I have a gauge swatch right here to remind myself to talk about this. Now this bag is made in a 3:1 ratio, which means the length of the bag as we make it, our starting chains are going to be our 3 and the side is going to be our 1 when we're talking about ratio, the amount of rows. That way it folds correctly. It needs to be that. So you can start with your starting chain, the width that you're going to do, and then you just simply crochet the height to be 1/3 of that width. The other things you will need today is a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle to weave in those ends, and I'm using a 4mm crochet hook. And this is what I use to get gauge. And so if you are following the pattern stitch counts, you'll want to make sure that you are getting gauge today for this pattern. The other thing you might want to purchase is a bag strap. Now I've included some links for Amazon where you can purchase a bag strap, but I also in the written instructions have another tutorial on how to make a crochet braid if you don't want to purchase the bag strap. But on video today, we're just going to talk about making this rectangle bag. So let's go ahead and get started. Today I'm going to be starting with this tangerine, somewhat conch color, and we are going to start by taking a slip knot and placing that onto our hook. And now I'm going to chain 110. Now after chaining 110, we are going to start in the very first stitch from the chain, and I like to work into that back hump, and we are going to single crochet. And you can mark that stitch if needed so that you can keep track of your stitches across the row. And we are simply going to continue to single crochet in each stitch across, not changing the stitch count. So we will have 110 stitches at the end of single crocheting across this entire row. Now that we have 110 single crochet stitches, I have turned my work, and we're going to be working this in rows, and we're going to start to do that granny stitch. Now this is going to be a 1 row repeat essentially, but I'm going to show you 2 rows of this because our first row we're going to be working into these single crochet stitches, and then the next row 2 will be our true repeat. So we're going to start by doing a stacked single crochet into this very first stitch. So notice I didn't chain and I went right into this very first stitch, and then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, but we're not done yet. We're going to go back into that left bar there, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and that is a stacked single crochet. Now why am I choosing to use this? That's because it creates a straighter edge, and straighter edges make my heart happy. What you'll want to do though is you'll want to mark the top of the stacked single crochet so that your stitch count doesn't get off, because sometimes it can be quite easy to work into this side stitch around the edge, which we don't want to do. So you'll want to mark that stacked single crochet. Now we're going to do 2 double crochets into the very next stitch. And now we're going to skip 2 stitches and 3 double crochet into the next. And this is going to be our repeat across until we get to the very end of this row. We're going to skip 2 stitches and 3 double crochet into the next. Now I'm going to keep doing that repeat until I get to the last stitches of this row. And now that I have 3 stitches left in this row, I'm going to move my beginning of the row stitch marker from the previous row, and we are going to double crochet into that very last single crochet stitch. And now we are going to turn our work, and for row 2, like I said, this will be our row repeat. Now this is worked in a stitch count of 3 plus 2. So if you were to say start your own bag without doing a gauge swatch, without using the recommended yarn, you want to use any yarn you want to use, you're going to start that beginning chain in a multiple of 3 plus 2. Now for row 2, we are going to start once again with a stacked single crochet, and then we will want to mark that stitch. You can never have enough stitch markers around your house. I'm always looking for one, grabbing one, and I swear I have hundreds here. And now in this very first space here, so we're looking at this space between our stitch from the last row and this group of 3, we are going to do 2 double crochets into that space. And this is how every single row from here on out is going to start. Then we're going to go to the next space between those group of 3 stitches, those 3 double crochets, and we are going to do 3 double crochets. And that's what we are going to repeat across until we get to the very end of row 2. So we're just going to go to the next space, and we are going to do 3 double crochets. And I'm going to work this across until I get to the end of the row, and I'll show you how the end of the row will look. Now at the end of row 2, we once again have 3 stitches left. We're going to go ahead and move our stitch marker of that very last stitch, and we're going to do a double crochet into that very last stitch. And that makes a nice straight edge. And now we're just going to turn our work, and we're going to repeat row 2 until we have the height. You can make this in a solid color, but if you are making it in a colorway, you can change colors however you want. Now for this pattern, similarly to the crochet dress I did, I have included different colorway suggestions for this chart of how many rows to do of what color. And I have that Taylor Swift inspiration colorway in there as well. So I'm going to be working this color for 4 rows, and then I'm going to switch to the lilac, and I'm going to work that for 2. And then I'll switch to this brown and work that for 1. And then I will be switching to the ecru or that cream color and working that for 1, and then back to the brown for 1, and then this for 1, and then the brown for 1. And that does add quite a bit of ends to weave in, but it is worth it to get a fun stripe effect. Now, after you have completed working all these rows in the design pattern you want, it's time to block it. You're going to want to block it. It will make it so much sharper and easier for us to do some seaming. Now, the other thing you can do for this bag, since it does have holes, I like it as more of a beach bag to throw in some sunglasses and a beach towel. But if you want to, you can line this bag. And to do that, it's easiest when it's a flat rectangle. You can simply do a flat rectangle piece of fabric and attach it to it before folding, and you're going to seam it and sew it just on the inside of the edges of the bag. Or if you're really good at sewing, you can also just take a rectangle, put it into this shape, sew those seams, and then stick it inside and then attach it around the top. If you hate your sewing machine like I do, you can also use a fabric glue, which goes really quick and easy as well. Here we are at my favorite part, and that is the folding. It's so fun. It's like simple origami, but it turns out beautiful. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this top corner and we are going to fold it down, making this corner perfectly lined up. And now we're going to take this bottom corner and we are going to fold it up, doing the same. And this is where it gets really fun. This is where the bag is made. We're going to grab this part, keeping everything folded, simply fold it down. Turn your bag, and there we are. Now what we have left is to seam along here and then to do the same on the back side. And I do like to match it up with the same yarn. So on this side, I'm going to use the brown yarn, and on the other side, I'll end up using that coral color. Now you can seam this any way you want. You can grab a needle and thread and simply weave back and forth and seam it. I have put a stitch marker where all my stitches line up starting from here. I've made sure one to one they've all lined up, and this is where I would start if I wanted to seam starting from the opening. Now I am going to be doing what's called a surface slip stitch type seam, and on this side I think it's going to be hard to see, so I'm going to finish off this side and show it to you on the other side with the coral yarn. So now that I've got this side seamed, we're simply going to flip it over and I'm going to show you how to do the seaming on this side. And I'm going to start by using the purple color so we can kind of see what's going on here. Now once again, I've placed a stitch marker between the stitches on each side. Starting from here, I made sure one to one we're lining up all the stitches from the corner here so that they are even. And I've marked where I'm going to start between those two stitches. And then I'm going to turn my work. I like to work down from this edge. And I'm going to grab the purple because I think that will be easier to see. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach my yarn, and I'm going to take out the stitch marker, remembering what stitches I'm working through here. And we are going to go for this stitch on the right hand side, I'm going to go down what would be the back loop if we were working that row. And then I'm going to do the same for this side. I'm going to go down what would be the back loop. And we're going to be grabbing our yarn from underneath. And I know this is the trickiest part, but underneath here, I'm going to grab my yarn and I'm going to pull through the first loop on the hook and then the second loop on the hook. And now I'm going to do opposite. I'm going to go down this side first in the back loop only, and then through the other side in the back loop only. And then from underneath, I'm going to grab my yarn and I'm going to pull through both of the loops on the hook and through the slip stitch there. And that's how we're going to be working this all the way down. I alternate which side I start on, but this is a great way to do like a slip stitch surface join. Now you don't have to. If this is a little bit tricky, you can just grab a yarn needle and thread and seam this. So let me show you that again. I'm going to go down this side, back loop only, and then down this side, yarn over from underneath, and pull through all those loops on the hook. The reason why I do love this stitch, even though it can be a little bit more challenging and it takes me a little bit longer to do, is I love the way this stitching looks. So we've got that surface stitching going on that looks really nice. Now I'm going to switch colors and do it in the actual coral color and work my way all the way down. And I don't ever really get through the last two. I just grab my yarn needle and seam those together and weave in my end. It's not noticeable. And then I'll come back and seam in this end here to make sure that it lines up perfectly. So now I'm simply going to fasten off, which this is underneath there, and grab my yarn needle and weave in those ends, being sure to close that corner. But this bag has holes anyway, so you don't have to be too worried about it. I'm just going to loop through the corners, and what I think looks nice is to go right back down the center of that last stitch and then weave in the yarn on the inside of the bag. And next we just have to place handles. Now to finish this off, I have taken a strap that I liked this color I purchased online, and I've simply clipped it through the top corners of this bag, and it works quite nicely. I love keeping this plain since this is so colorful. Now if you want to make your own strap, I have a crochet braided strap tutorial. It's the same one I used on the Danbury bag, and I've linked that video in the pattern and online if you wanted to make your own. Now a couple other customizations for this bag are this. If you want to make these edges a bit straighter, you can now join and slip stitch all the way around the opening, and then I like to single crochet in the back loop of that slip stitch all the way around again and then join, but that's completely up to you. I don't mind these straight granny edges, especially using that stacked single crochet. I think it looks nice. I hope that you've enjoyed this granny stitch bag pattern. You can do it in so many different colorways. It's a quick and fun project, makes great gifts, probably does really well at markets because it's so cute. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and come back for more fun projects soon.